channel.
That's true.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the CrossFIt RIfe podcast, where we talk about the pursuit of health and happiness via CrossFit. For those of you that are wondering where this podcast is housed, where can you see and hear all of the great things that people like Matt, more importantly myself, have to say? Half of them, I've finally got it figured out. There are 4 currently housed on the website. If you go, there's a tab in there that says podcast. You can literally watch the full video version of this on the website.
Very nice, very nice.
In its entirety, 1 hour. Do it that way. The audio versions are not up on iTunes. I'm waiting for Jake to do a little bit more editing, but I believe this is episode number 10 that I've done.
Right. Yeah.
And those will be on iTunes very, very soon, and then you can listen to it in your car and there as well. But check the website, and then we have like little clips and stuff on Facebook and Instagram. We're not going to house the whole thing there. So, but yeah, today we have with us a longtime member. Whole family comes to the gym, all the kids, him and his wife. It's a family affair. Matt Burmester, good dude, way smarter than me, extremely tall. So I'm going to bring my seat up so I don't look so short.
Yeah, I'm actually sitting at the lowest setting. He's got a book underneath his chair.
Actually sitting on the floor, and I'm actually in a chair. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff I would like to pick Matt's brain about. Introduction to CrossFit, doing CrossFit, taking a pretty significant break, coming back into CrossFit, bringing your spouse into CrossFit, introducing your kids into CrossFit. I mean, there's so many rabbit holes that we can go down into on this episode. But before we get into any of that, give us your life story.
My whole life story?
The whole thing.
Wow.
In its entirety.
All right. So,
but you have to do it in 60 seconds.
All right, 60 seconds. So I was born in Cleveland, Ohio. Grew up among moving boxes in St. Louis. Spent some time, my dad bounced around a lot. Not military, just he moved a lot. And we spent some time in upstate Michigan. And then in like 5th grade, we planted roots in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is where I spent the rest of my time growing up. So I would consider that home from a kid's standpoint. And graduated high school in 2000. Joined the Navy, not straight out of high school, but in that year before, I was at North Carolina State. They weren't telling me that I needed to leave, but I could see the writing was on the wall within the next year or so. I wasn't going to be good enough for the program I was in. I was a nuclear machinist mate for 5 years. The Navy is fortunate to get picked up through the Seaman Admiral program, got commissioned.
Stay 21,
Stay
baby.
21, the best program. And I got in at the right time when that counted towards your retirement to just go to school.
Oh, shit.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, so that doesn't do that anymore?
We're gonna take a quick detour here,
All right,
real quick, everybody.
detour.
So this is something that comes. It's like what? It's like this topic is it's a wives' tale amongst Naval Academy graduates.
Yes.
And the wives' tale goes like this: your 4 years at the Naval Academy. NAPS is different because that's actually service time.
Right.
NAPS is the Naval Academy Prep School. If you're super dumb, mildly athletic, they send you there first. Once you go to the Naval Academy, it does not count towards your time in service, but apparently it does count towards retirement.
So my understanding
if you retire at 20, you would actually retire at 24.
Or in the NAPS, so does the year of NAPS count as the year
as
of
a year
the
in
20?
service? Yeah, so technically 19.
So you'd start off on the beginning of year 2, basically.
Correct. However, I don't know if that's actually true.
So I have heard that as well, but I've heard it come and go. I think it's the great unknown that they don't tell you about. And really, most people quit before they get to the 20 anyway, so they never find out.
I think it's complete garbage. If I had to guess, I am fully invested into the side that it is complete bullshit and it is not true.
Well, I can believe it. It would not surprise me that the Naval Academy is using abnormal recruiting methods. But for Seaman Admiral, that's a myth as well. It's not a thing anymore. But it
was.
It was, and I got there at the right time. So
I'm curious if I could find out if that is true or not now.
I could probably
for the Naval Academy.
I'll do some research.
Not that I'm going to retire. They were like, hey, we don't need you anymore.
Well, I was
4 times they told me that.
If it wasn't for the prior enlisted time, I'd be at that same point. So now I'm invested enough that that's not the case.
Okay, sorry. All right,
no,
back on track.
It's good. All right, so commissioned through the University of New Mexico to be a submarine officer. It's a long story if you're interested sometime about the fact that I didn't actually want to do submarines at all.
Listen, we've got an hour. We might as well
All
go
right.
there.
So it turns out that the submarine force is not an all-volunteer force. It is an all-volunteer enlisted force. And they would like it to be an all-volunteer officer force, but it turns out that if there's not enough people, they still have to man all the ships. And they do things like look at all these people who signed up to be a nuclear officer, and they say, hey, guess what? The paperwork doesn't say submarines or surface. And I say, but I wanted to be surface. You just didn't ask. And they say, we'll wait you out. So I was up into my very last semester. I was over a semester overdue to go to the sessions interview, which any of you guys that don't know, every nuclear officer interviews in Washington, D.C. with the head of naval reactors, so it's 4-star admiral. Not that the interview is hard, but it's a tradition at this point. And they just played chicken with my whole class. It happened at the Naval Academy. It happened with a lot of folks that were in a situation like me. If you didn't want to go submarines and they hadn't met their quota yet, they just wouldn't take you to interview. So for me, that meant if I waited long enough, I would get my degree but not commission, and then I would revert back to being a first-class mechanic who was extremely senior and had zero experience. And so eventually I blinked and I became in submarines.
Man, they were forcing guys to go submarines when I was at the Naval Academy who did not want to go submarines.
A lot of aviators went that way.
Which I find incredibly intriguing.
Yeah,
that is a massive amount of school. It is not easy, and you're not going to retain those folks.
No, you're not. And there's a few that you will because you're going to get them in and they're going to be interested. But the majority of them are so disenchanted that not only are you not going to retain them in the submarine force, you're going to have zero chance to retain them for the Navy. Whereas if you would have said, hey, we have this big need and we'll give you a tour, one tour, and then here's a guarantee in writing that will give you an opportunity to cross over into another community, maybe you have a chance at retaining those folks.
Maybe.
But most of those guys, I mean, some of these guys had seats lined up in flight school. Man. So not the case for me. My choice was nuclear, and really when I read my contract, I was kind of stuck. So I just took what I could get.
I can't imagine why a man your size would not want to be in a submarine.
Well, at 6'6", it's not good. Yeah, my first submarine was SSBN, so ballistic missile submarine. It was the USS Nebraska out of Bangor, Washington. And that class of ship is big enough that there are a few places I can walk around and a lot of places I can stand. Second ship was here, and 0 places that I can walk around and like 3 or 4 that I can stand up. So.
But you're just a boomer guy, right?
No, so I was boomer. They switch platforms on you. So I did boomer guy first tour, and a fast attack is the Los Angeles class attack submarine on the same class.
So. Okay. Growing up, you play any sports? I mean, I imagine you at least tried to play basketball.
So as a little kid, an interesting story, I did not like to play basketball. So my parents, they went to the YMCA as a YMCA kid. They encouraged me to try everything. So did some swim team stuff, only really good at backstroke, and I didn't really like to practice, so that it went by the wayside. I love to play baseball. I played a little bit of basketball very early, and my first season.
Were you a pitcher? First base.
Both. So YMCA ball, sometimes the league doesn't have that many kids. So
play 3-on-3.
No, I mean you have enough for the team, but that's about it. So like I played first base or pitch, and then we had our other pitcher because we only had 2. Was he played like center fielder pitching.
Got it.
Right. So
at the same time.
Yes,
you pitch it, run into center field, and
we probably needed that, but not the case. So I was a St. Louis Cardinals fan growing up, and I had a Bob Gibson kick. If you know what that looks like, somewhere there's a picture of me out there basically doing the splits, trying to look cool, throwing a fastball, and but that only lasted until I grew really fast. Once I grew really fast. It turns out in North Carolina, like I guess all the baseball coaches were short when I was growing up, and nobody understood that if your arm gets a foot longer, you have to hold on to the ball longer. So all my throws became rainbow throws, and my bat speed was way down, and I just didn't play baseball anymore. Basketball, my one season playing basketball, I loved it, and then one day before a game, I went up. We were doing warm-ups or shoot around. went up for a rebound, knocked down my best friend on the team, and he broke his arm. What's it? Compound fracture when it breaks through the skin?
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
I think so.
I can't remember.
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah.
It was a bloody mess. It scared me to death, and I never played basketball again in an organized fashion until I was in the Navy. That was it. I told my dad I didn't want to play anymore. So
You're like, I'm going to kill people.
yeah, hindsight being 2020, maybe I should have played basketball.
Well, I mean, maybe not. You should play whatever sport you love.
Well, I enjoy playing basketball now. Not very good because the formative years of a big man playing with his back to the basket, I didn't get. So I can rebound. I can play a little bit of defense. I have a vertical like one Hershey bar, if you're familiar with that that idea.
It's really high.
Yeah, really, really high vertical. I can really throw it down. Actually, I can't dunk. So
Have you ever dunked?
I got up to being able to dunk a women's ball. My neighbor had I call it like a redneck basketball court in his backyard.
Yep.
He had a full-size goal, and then he had an adjustable one, and we used to practice our lack of skills on the adjustable rim.
Of course. Everybody can be Michael Jordan when the goal's 7 feet.
That's true, especially when you're playing against his 7-year-old brother. And so I got up to a women's ball on a proper height, but I couldn't just couldn't get it in. And to be honest, I was really just banging it off of the back of the iron anyways.
just throw. Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh,
You
yeah.
just go up there and you just. That was always the funniest when guys would go up there and they could get maybe the tips of their fingers above the rim. And
But if you touch the rim, it's a dunk.
and they would endlessly try to dunk, which just looks like them throwing the ball at the backboard and having their fingers touch the rim. Just
100%.
over and over and over. And it was, it's almost there. And I'm like, no, you aren't.
Well, like in that time, like unless you paid for a private coach or you were on a team, like how else are you going to figure out how to jump? There's no Google the internet and figure out all these great training techniques or anything.
Yeah, that's why I was always super fortunate as a kid, as I had access to a lot of coaches because my dad was a coach, so I was always learning stuff and having access to camps and specialty programs and all that stuff. And I probably maxed out my genetic potential because of that.
So I definitely did not. And
I dunked. I've dunked before.
I'm upset about that.
Yeah.
So
I'm 5'11", everybody. 6 foot in the program.
6 foot in the program. Got to inflate that. What now? Was that 6 foot with shoes on, or are you inflating it even
This
more?
is a conversation I've literally never understood.
It doesn't matter.
No, it does matter. Nobody in the history of basketball has played in their bare feet. So I'm only concerned with how tall they are with their fucking shoes on.
That's fair, but everywhere else, every doctor's office, everywhere out there.
But that doesn't matter. Like if you're 7 foot with your shoes on, then you're 7 foot when I play against you. Yeah, I agree. Yes, it's
heels.
It's relative. We're both wearing shoes, but my point is, on the basketball court, you're 7 feet tall. If you're however tall you are with your shoes on.
Fair enough.
I've always found it's just really weird. How tall is he? Well, how tall is he without his shoes on? I'm like, is he playing barefoot? Then I don't care.
That's fair. That's fair. So I got a funny story about somebody that tried to get me to play basketball.
Okay.
I took driver's ed when I was, I guess, about to turn 16. You had to take the driving portion of driver's ed in North Carolina. You go drive around.
I thought like that's pretty standard.
True.
Okay. You said that like it was weird.
Well, like different states a little bit different, but in our case it was an after-school program, and we would go. You like sign up on a wait list or whatever, and you end up going. The guy that we drove with when I drove was the varsity basketball coach.
Okay.
And he said he would not pass me unless I agreed to come to tryouts.
How tall are you at this point?
Let's see. I was probably 6'4".
Oh, so you're big for high school. Well, bigger.
Well, I was like 6'4", but I was also only like 140 pounds.
So you were yoked.
Yeah. There was zero chance that anybody was going to think that I was going to be able to like box people out. But yeah,
the funny thing is, as tall as you are not that tall in the world of college basketball.
No, not at all.
You're average.
Yeah, I remember growing up, like when I passed 5'6", I was in North Carolina. Muggsy Bogues was still playing for Charlotte Hornets, and I was officially tall enough to play in the NBA.
How tall is Muggsy Bogues? 5'1"?
I think he was 5'6". He was not tall by
Spud Webb was
NBA.
5'7".
Yeah.
I think Muggsy Bogues is shorter than that.
He might be maybe 5'4".
I think he's 5'5", 5'4".
I just know he looked ridiculous because he played with Alonzo Mourning and Larry Johnson.
Yeah, he looks like a hobbit.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyways.
When you're growing up, are you just playing sports, or is there any type of training involved with any of this? Or just like, here's a basketball, we're gonna jam?
My sister she was a runner, and then she rode collegiately. So I got some exposure to that, mostly to running. Spent a lot of time trying to tag along with the cross-country team when she was in high school. I wasn't very good relative to what the speed that they were at, but I at least enjoyed it. I did not – my parents encouraged me in the music side, so I ended up in the marching band, which took out track and cross-country season. It overlapped. But no weight training, no anything other than occasionally like going to the YMCA and trying to use the fly machine for as many reps as I could do.
So,
which was like 3.
When is your first introduction to like fitness?
Does the Navy count? I don't know if Navy.
I mean, if it's your first introduction.
Yeah, I would say no.
I didn't say good. I just meant like
at NC State, straight out of high school. I became good friends with, dated for a little while, mostly just good friends with a girl that was on the swim team there.
Okay.
So Division I athlete, hung out with her a lot, and I couldn't understand why they were always working out. And then she like blew my mind when she showed me her like workout plan for a day, and it included like 500 or 600 reps of different core ab exercises, and that was like their warm up.
It's like gymnastics.
Right.
Gymnastics is bonkers.
Yeah, so it was totally insane. Because I was friends with her, became friends with a bunch of the other folks on the swim team there, and was just completely blown away. And at that point, I'd already decided I was going to go to the Navy before NC State said I had to go somewhere else. And so her thing was, hey, you're never going to make it through if you can't do if your core's not strong. So I started doing lots of sit-ups and stuff, but really I didn't know anything else that I was doing. And
You're doing it because she's doing it.
I was doing it because she was way stronger than me, and it was embarrassing. Because she was a sprint swimmer on top of being a swimmer, which meant like she had guns like shirts. She had to get like special shirts and stuff because she was ripped. And
Sounds hot.
What's that?
Sounds hot.
She's at the time, it was good. Hopefully she doesn't see this. She'll probably see this. Anyways, so I got exposed a little bit there, but not knowledgeable. And then, let's see, so 15 years of standard Navy, greater than 3 miles a year, greater than double the number of push-ups required, but like mostly just trying to beat the system for a physical readiness test.
Did you have trouble with the PRT?
I mean, look at these arms. Look at these arms and how skinny they are.
So for those of you who are not watching the video version of this, Matt has incredibly long arms.
Yeah,
but it doesn't, in fact, answer the question that I was asking.
Yes,
Which is
yes. The push-ups are the devil. Anybody that's tall and has long arms will tell you bench press, pull-ups, anything overhead is going to be not necessarily a problem, but you're at a mechanical disadvantage just based on the length of
the lever arm's
motion.
longer.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So. People tell me, hey, you suck at push-ups. And I say, yeah, I suck at push-ups. But if we go to physics, as an engineer, if we go to physics, I'm probably doing as much work as you, the distance of force over a distance. But
depends on what you weigh.
That's true, but I'm these days is weighing a little more than I should be weighing.
Well,
so.
you would be doing more by the equation, right? So
Right.
if you weigh more and you're going a longer distance, mathematically, you are doing more work.
Yeah, so my argument was even if I was, for most of these guys, even if I was only doing 40 push-ups, for the guys that were banging out 80 push-ups, some of them I was doing more work than.
Very, very possible.
But the Navy doesn't care about that, so
Nope.
I just kind of...
Only in CrossFit do we care about what you're actually doing.
Yeah, let's be honest, though. They only do, in CrossFit, they care about the reps, too, if you were talking competition, right?
So they don't really take into account the height or weight of the athlete because
there's too many variables.
Well, not necessarily that. It shouldn't matter if the quantity of the tests is varied enough that everybody's getting things that fall into their wheelhouse. So like gymnastics, not in the best interest of big people.
True. Running.
Weightlifting,
rowing.
on the other hand, if the bigger you are, mass moves mass. So, a guy that weighs 200 is going to generally snatch more than somebody who weighs 155.
True.
So then it balances out. And then I personally like the them not having weight classes or anything like that, because they've broken a lot of barriers on like big people can't do gymnastics and little people can't be strong. They're crushing all of that. Both sets of athletes can do both, and both can go long. So,
and I like to watch. I would say really my first exposure to CrossFit was watching the games, but I didn't think of it as exposure to CrossFit at that point. It was,
what year was this?
Man, we were here already.
2012 had to be like the first year that was kind of like a big deal.
It was probably 2000. Let's see, we came here in 2012 at the end. It was probably 2013, and watching like late night ESPN coverage or something like that was like pre-recorded.
When did you guys have been here longer than that, haven't you?
We moved here in September 2012, and
when did you come
I started coming in July or August of 13.
Okay, so we're 5.5 years, almost 6 years into this. Got it. Okay. I'll just forget what year it is.
Yeah, but we watched a little bit, and that was one of the things that I thought was awesome about it is you had little people, tall people, skinny people, giants, and all in the same competition. And over the course of the whole games, right, like all the strengths and weaknesses kind of evened out, and everyone was still pretty close in the pack.
That was in the time where there wasn't such a spread between like the really good athletes and the mediocre folks, if you will. But it was also still a time where if you had a super skill, it gave you a massive advantage. Like if you were strong, the way it was designed, like the competition had not evolved such that if you were a specialist, you would get punished. You can't be just strong now. You just have to win what you can win and then do well everywhere else now, which is massive change from the way it used to be. So, we'll see moving forward, but I don't think the games in and of itself will change that much. We'll find out. I don't want to spend a ton of time because your entry to CrossFit is like a lot of people's entry to CrossFit who don't have a lot of background. So if you've watched any of our other podcasts, Matt's entry is very similar, right? Not a ton of background.
And zero background, a lot of range of motion problems, not a lot of strength to draw upon, even when the range of motion was fixed or whatever. So basically, started at the bottom with somebody who doesn't have knowledge on the movement pattern, in particular from the waist down. Had range of motion issues, hips and ankles, bad knees, and
squatting for you was tough when you came in.
Yeah, I think I was here for 3 months before, with the assistance of a fatigued legs and the gravity of a wall ball, got to full depth on a squat.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, so I would say my deepest squat when I first got here was about like a quarter squat.
That's fair.
Yeah, looking back at it.
Yeah. Why'd you stay?
So came the first day, got absolutely destroyed, which is, not in a bad way. I was exhausted afterwards after a short workout, which was intriguing. It was something new. A friend had invited me, and we had a similar work schedule, so we came at the same time. So I had like someone who I could do it with, who I would see during the day and could be encouraged to go. And I just learned so much. It was John Freeman.
Oh, that's right.
So John Freeman and I are working in the same shop over at,
I forgot about that.
At work.
Shout out, John.
Yep. And so he's out in Washington now. Yep. So hopefully we'll hook up with him when we head back out there. But he got me going and encouraged me to keep coming. And I saw gains right away. Not gains in the way I looked necessarily, but in the way I felt. And the first time I was here, it was hey, what are your goals? And I was able to say, yeah, it'd be all right if I looked better in the mirror a little bit and didn't have to stress about passing the PRT. And those were acceptable, tangible goals, and where we could say, all right, this is what we need to do. Mm-hmm. It was the right environment at the right time for me, and then I think it was probably 3 or 4 months in, I hurt myself. Like just something silly, doing overhead lift, didn't catch it quite right, and tweaked my shoulder. And the encouragement I got to keep coming, but like, keep coming at your normal time. Take it easy. Don't necessarily do the workout. Come talk to the coach and get something that you can do to keep moving the shoulder and learning about mobility and everything like that. Through that healing process is really what made me stick. Then I realized, hey, not only are they going to teach me how to move, they're going to teach me how to take care of myself when something doesn't go right.
That is something that I'm not sure we've done a good enough job expressing to people.
I will tell you that the only reason that Nicole came was because of that time. Because she did some research on CrossFit. People who get hurt or whatever, they're just going to get you to go hard and go. And this is great that you're getting in shape because I like it. But I'm afraid, she was afraid to come because she was worried she was going to get hurt and have a serious problem. We had kids and whatever. It wasn't until she heard me come home and say, yeah, I hurt myself or whatever, and they said, hey, don't lift anymore, right? Like, we need to take care of it. This is what we can do. This is what we think the problem is. These are some areas to watch. And she saw, like, it was a safe environment, right? Like, things are going to happen, right?
It's not unreasonable to think you're going to get some bumps and bruises along the way, as long as you don't make them worse.
Yeah, and it wasn't an overused thing. It was I was still
It was an
learning.
accident, basically.
Yeah, I was learning movement patterns, and I fatigued, and I missed one just right, and it tweaked my shoulder. And rather than continuing on or anything like that, the coach recognized it right away, had me stop. We dealt with the issue that I had or whatever, and took care of it in a way where I was only out of doing like a full WOD or for about 2 weeks, whereas if I would have kept going, who knows? And the way that happened and the gym responded with that was actually what made Nicole feel okay with coming for the first time.
That's interesting. I'm pretty bullish about that when people it doesn't happen a ton, but it does happen. And I'm not going on a limb. Most people that that something happens doesn't happen in the gym.
Oh, it's something
happens
outside.
At work or at home or something like that. And they're like, oh, I can't come into the gym. I'm like, yes, you can. And you need to. If you continue to train around said injury, you will get better faster.
Yeah.
Right? There's enough people in here of every caliber that have been injured that have followed our advice with regard to injury protocol that have come back from the injury faster. I've done it. Phil's done it. We did it with you. We've done it with a bunch of other athletes. And Phil and I's injuries were different because we were really pushing the envelope on what we were trying to do. And he was competing in weightlifting. I was like trying to go back to regionals again, got injured. And so that is kind of expected. The fact that Phil went 11 years or whatever it was with 0 injuries is phenomenal.
Yeah, I think it's
but he continued to train. I think he was back in here. I mean, I think he took 2 weeks off. It's about as long as I took off when
he just changed what he was doing. And
Yeah.
you build a game plan for what you have to do. I mean, I remember seeing guys in here on a rower with a foot on a skateboard. Yeah. People who had like a lower leg injury on the assault bike going with the upper body. I mean, there's ways to continue to move, almost no matter what your injury is, as long as you're willing to come in and be honest about what your situation is.
So that's the thing, right? So if you're listening to this, or you're watching this, if you get injured, right? We hope that you don't, but life happens. A lot of people will not come in because they will say, hey, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, that's not your job. That's our job. So come in, be honest. What Matt just said is super critical. Be honest about what your injuries. Don't tough it out. That's stupid. Tell the coach what the issue is. Have them scale the workout appropriately for you. If the coach cannot scale for you or doesn't know that, well, that's kind of a professional problem. Like, they should be able to work around that. If they don't, I'm not going to say, like, leave your gym. But that's a pretty serious discussion in my mind. But like, if they cannot scale around that, maybe we need to talk about like where we're at. But you can always do something. If you got a hurt arm, elbow, wrist, shoulder, whatever, you're just going to do a lot of squatting for a while. Okay. If you got a bum knee, ankle, hip, something like that, you're going to do a lot of pressing and pulling for a while. It just is what it is. It's not the end of the world. Like, you can train, and oddly enough, you can actually get better at other things when you train. My best strict press lifetime is with one knee on a box, with my foot in a cast, because when I ruptured my Achilles, I could do nothing besides press. And I pressed like almost 20 pounds over my body weight for a strict press.
That's crazy. Well, no,
Yeah.
let's not talk percentages. I'm feeling inadequate.
I'm sorry. Do you want me to bring my seat back down?
Yeah, I do like
There
that.
you go.
That's
Good.
nice.
All right,
That's
cool.
better. Less dentistry.
Okay, so let's talk about, so Nicole comes in, but she was very adamant about not coming in for a while, correct?
Right. She didn't want to come in at all. Offered up to come in on a day when it was like CrossFit Kids, or come in on a Saturday and just look around or whatever. She didn't want to come. And I think part of that was being nervous about it for herself and not totally understanding. And then part of it was she recognized like that I was doing something that I enjoyed, that she was interested in, but she wasn't willing to commit. And for both of us, like, if we're both interested in the same thing, like I can just get a little exposure, like, we're in 100%. So
Yeah.
I think not wanting to come was partially she didn't understand it yet and didn't want to get like sucked in until she understood it.
I mean, that's fair.
Meh.
This is a selfish question. Mm-hmm. For those scenarios, what would be beneficial for a gym or a coach or a trainer to do in a scenario? What tools would be beneficial to give an athlete to get their significant other in the gym?
Man.
Some people just don't want to do it. I get it. But for those people that might have, like, they're like, oh, they're just not sure about it or whatever.
I don't know. I mean, we do an on-ramp program here. Mm-hmm. I know we've had different programs or whatever, or different ways for getting people in. Bring a Friend Week is a great opportunity, I think, because it brings in a bunch of new people at once. So that can be like a little less intimidating if that's what the issue is.
It's a great way to disarm people.
Yeah, I think so. And the way it was when I came in and when Nicole came in, it was we're doing the like workout after the Saturday workout, where it was just people that were interested.
Yep.
It was a one shop, no strings attached. We'll show you the gym when basically nobody's around, and walk you through one workout. And from what I gathered, it was like one part you kind of feel it out, and one part coach gets to see where you're at. Mm-hmm. And that worked for us, but I could still say if you're not sure about it, that can be an intimidating environment too, because it's just a one on or a 2 on with a coach in the gym, and you don't know what you're getting. I think the Bring a Friend Week is a great opportunity because you have established members who are there. It's a normal class time, so they're in the normal environment, and there's going to be other new people, especially at least the way we do it. There's always new people checking it out for the first time, or at least checking out the box.
I don't think we've had less than 15 people come in anytime we've done that.
No,
like throughout the week. Sometimes more, but no less than 15.
Yeah, so I think that from that standpoint, it's if you know you have a member who has a spouse who's hesitant to come in for whatever reason, I think that the encouragement time would be when the next Bring a Friend Week is. That between that, or if the gym's having a social, if you can get them in for the social, even if they don't want to come in for the workout, and they can come meet the people and see that whatever their view is, that CrossFit people are crazy people, or those guys are all freaks, or whatever it is, or just an opportunity to get in the door and see the facilities in a non-intimidating environment, whatever.
Where no fitness is happening.
Yeah, no fitness is happening, but I'm in the space. I see the people. I can get to recognize some faces if I come back and get familiar with my environment. There's so many different variables for why somebody might not want to come in, but the social, when it happens, is usually, I don't know, it's a good time, and there's lots of time to just talk to people.
Yeah, just to meet people out without feeling like judged. Okay, cool.
Well, I mean, sometimes you're judgy.
Me?
No, I'm just kidding. With me.
I'm always judging.
But that's with members.
Yeah, I'm always judging you.
Yeah, of course.
I want to talk about Alan and the girls for a little bit.
Okay, let's do it.
So we started personal training with Alan.
Let's see. We started before that even with personal training.
Well, so he was doing classes for a while. So actually, just talk about Alan for a little bit if you don't mind. So.
Okay, so Alan's 10 now. I think so. This is 2013, so he would have been 5 when he started doing stuff at the gym.
Yeah, he's been doing it for a hot minute.
Yeah, so he would come with me on Saturdays to do like, and at that point it wasn't to work out or anything like that. He was just coming with me, and then we'd go do something fun afterwards. And so he would sit over on the back wall with my phone playing like flash games or whatever, garbage games he wanted to play. And then one day I looked up from what I was doing in the WOD, and he was doing burpees over on one of the lifting platforms. And I looked at the coach, and he kind of shrugged, and he did burpees afterwards. After the workout, I asked him what he wanted to do. He said, I wanted to see if I could do 50 burpees. And kind of said, okay, well, what's going to happen with this? And he kept coming with me to the gym. We spent some time talking to you and asked if it would be okay if he tried doing some classes. Mm-hmm. And at the time, like, it was the right time in the gym's life, I think, for there to be a young kid.
Yeah, I don't know that I would do that again now. I don't know that we could facilitate it, but I do think it was very timely.
Yeah, it worked out. At the time, we were in relatively big space. We had, at least the classes that we were coming to, there was space, and we had what seemed like the right coaches for that.
I definitely think there's a particular skill set to manage that scenario with the coach. Somebody who has to be patient and quick on their feet.
Yeah, I mean, really, when you think about it, with a 5-year-old doing a WOD with a full adult class, where you might be doing snatch, you might be doing any other kind of barbell cycling or muscle ups where you got, big people moving a lot. There's a safety thing. So that was one of the big things that we had to talk with him about, and I know you talk with the coaches about too, is, hey, the first time this becomes a safety concern, like, we can't do this.
And it never did.
No,
never did.
I only remember one time of ever even being worried about it, and it was like a 1-rep snatch day, and it was Big Brian Eller was moving a ton of weight, and we're like, hey, you can't go hang out with Brian.
Yeah, leave Brian alone.
Yeah, leave Brian alone while he's lifting. But
we just started him with a PVC pipe, and he just basically was just doing the movement patterns with everybody else. And PVC pipe, I don't know that it was challenging from a weight standpoint, but the movement patterns were challenging for Alan when he started.
Yeah, he didn't know a lot of stuff. So Alan has what used to be called Asperger's, high functioning autism, and one of the
is that what it's called now?
So they basically changed it. So
what is it now?
They just call it autism.
Okay.
Like autism spectrum disorder, I think. They used to try to bin them in different areas, and what they figured out is, like, they don't know enough about it yet.
Logan was just finally diagnosed with that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Well, I don't know to what degree, right? So I'm super hesitant to say that, but what the doctor explained was that what they're coming to find out is that they are now starting to think that boys and girls have 2 different spectrums.
I can believe that. I know that the traditional diagnosis is typically more male heavy.
I don't know, but she was just pretty delinquent on some things, and so yeah, I get it. But where I was going with this is that, having worked with Alan pretty extensively, and then seeing different things with Logan too, I'm a firm believer that physical exercise and training is immensely valuable for kids in that scenario.
100%. Like, that was one of the things that led us to start working into the personal training a little bit, is that Alan had, like, night and day behavior and concentration abilities, depending on if he had been at the gym and done a workout or not. That physical stimulus was sometimes the difference between having a good day and having a complete autism-related, like, meltdown. So, academically and just with, like, normal things around the house.
I'll talk a little bit about from a training standpoint. So for anybody who, and obviously there's a spectrum here. So depending on who the child is and where they fall on that spectrum, this can be more or less difficult. If you're not really sure what to do with kids in that scenario, what we found, and this is a data point of one,
Right.
it was very basic play. So throwing and catching one arm or one hand, two hand, throwing, catching 1 foot, one hand, 1 foot, two hands, learning to hop, learning to skip, learning to throw with proper mechanics of plant, push, throw, things like that he just really was struggling to, those wires weren't connecting. So we just worked on him a lot and he got pretty good at a lot of them.
Yeah, the big thing that we already knew before we started doing anything with CrossFit is he had some limitations developmentally with anything that crossed midline. So anything right to left, anything taking my right hand and going across, feet, anything like that. Which when you think athletics,
that's it.
That's all of it.
Yeah.
So so that was huge. I mean, basically, I think we went probably 6 months when he was working with you.
Yep.
But definitely like a whole summer where he was basically lived at the gym.
I know because he would come in and I told, I was here all day at that time frame for a different reason.
Yep.
But that was the time when, and I told Nicole, I was like, just leave him here. Like, it's better that he just sits in the gym and plays all day.
Yep.
and learns to play. But I remember she told me one of the tests they came back and they're like, basically he was severely deficient in this area, and then after like the summer, basically they said based on this test, it doesn't even qualify anymore. Like he's done. Like he's passed the test with flying colors.
Yeah. So that was in physical therapy. So we were doing physical therapy at that same time for gross motor delay, and also for some like visual recognition kind of stuff, like reflexes and things like that. And he tested out of all of those things, and after that summer, which was like 2 summers ago or 3 summers ago?
2.
I think it's 2, yeah. And then we didn't have to do PT for him anymore. So
2 months, like maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
Yep.
And a lot of what we were doing was a lot of like fine motor skills. Like we did a bunch of just play things that you would do at low level sports. Dropping a tennis ball or something like that, having him count the number and then pick it up on the 5th bounce, or a lot of throwing. It started with a lot of basic throwing and catching, and then it turned into a lot of throwing and catching, moving in different directions so that he didn't have to be stationary to do that skill. And he got pretty good at it. I mean, we were doing all sorts of stuff by the end, and then dribbling. Yeah, I was literally just playing sports where we were throwing the football, teaching him to dribble with his offhand, teaching him to dribble with his fingers, crossing over, moving backwards, forwards while managing another object. Those things are all incredibly useful for a kid in that scenario. Yep. And he was terrible at it when we first started.
Yeah, I'd say when we started, if he would have told you what one of his goals was, is to be able to dribble a basketball. So, and we had probably invested a year and a half, and some of that was like, I don't have the background to be able to teach that at the time, and also like learning from somebody else is more fun than learning from dad most of the time. I think you could attest to that in some cases.
Yes and no. I mean, my dad would probably agree with you, but he ended up. That was a different scenario. My dad intentionally did not coach me until I was in high school. He had oversight. He was kind of like the puppet master, like coaching through somebody else. He always made sure that I had a very knowledgeable coach, but he very much withheld coaching me because I think he knew we were going to have 4 years of together time, and he wasn't trying to burn that out. And it worked out really well. My dad and I had a great working relationship in high school. I mean, we had our clashes, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Most of the time, if he told me something, I was like, whatever.
Yeah, like even now, if we're here at class or whatever, and like we've been coming together on Saturdays or whatever, especially this month because we're doing the partner watts, and so he and I are always partners. So I spent some time like when it's a back and forth or whatever, I watch a movie, I'll be like, hey, do this or whatever.
Yeah.
And And he's like, oh, okay. And he keeps doing it the same way. And then coach comes and says the exact same thing with the exact same cue. Boom, done. Whatever.
It's like me coaching my wife, which I don't do anymore. I have to go through another human being.
That's like Nicole and I, she'll tell you 100%. We don't work out together. If we're in the same class, we're on opposite sides of the room.
I'm just a cheerleader,
whatever.
man. You look great, honey. You look good.
Yeah, she doesn't
Proud of you.
She doesn't even cheerlead. I don't know what look I get on my face or whatever, but it must be vicious.
It just doesn't work.
No, it's just,
there's a very small percentage of people that can make that work, and my wife and Jess and I are absolutely not in that small percentage. It's catastrophic.
Yeah, it's not good.
I told her we tried to do it a couple of years ago, and I was like, "Listen, I'm not coaching you anymore. Like, I just want to be your husband because this is not working."
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Anyway, what about the girls? What have you guys seen with them since they've started the CrossFit Kids stuff?
Let's see. So they're both on the spectrum as well. So we started like therapy and stuff like that for them much earlier because we kind of knew what we were looking for, and they grew up in the gym. So they were
How old
born.
are they? They're
5. So
they've literally been here the whole time.
Yep, they'll be 6 in February. So, when my wife first started coming. They would sit in their like twin stroller or whatever. They couldn't go anywhere.
Yep.
And watch the class. And then eventually they got old enough that wasn't a thing, and they go to the childcare that's with the 9 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And as soon as CrossFit Kids started, then they started doing everything. But even before that, when they were just watching, they see all the movements. They see mom and dad, mostly mom, doing all this stuff, whether it's squats or snatch or whatever, and they want to do that. So we would find them at home. They're barely at the walking stage, but they're doing squats and trying to do burpees and doing the mimicking. So for them, when CrossFit Kids was a thing, they wanted that more than anything. So we've had a similar trajectory where they started doing that, making strides. They're both actually only one of them now is in physical therapy, and she's almost out of it. They were both in physical therapy when we started, and the trajectory on the gross motor skills has, again, it's been like exponential because they're so much younger.
It's steep. It happened quick.
Yeah, so much younger than Alan was that kids learn so fast that they just, blew through that. So I think we're at the point now where we're just like finishing out what's already been authorized, and then the medical side's going to say you don't need this anymore.
Yeah. And I know you were working out at home for a while because the work got real crazy. But I know they worked out with you, or they would kind of work out with you at home.
Yeah, so when work started to get crazy and I stopped being able to come as much, so for a little while, I did a lot of after work working out in the garage gym. And like Nicole just opened up the door from the house or wherever while I was lifting in the garage. And they would either come out or watch and do squats and all sorts of stuff and like cheer me on. And then Alan would do workouts in the garage with me, like whether it's rowing or whatever, because I have a unnecessary amount of stuff at the house considering I'm here all the time. But yeah, so they would stay involved that way too. And actually before CrossFit Kids started, Alan would do that's where he would do like accessory stuff and like try to work on his own. So I don't know. I think we probably went for like a month where I didn't understand why the foot size on my rower kept getting changed. and I'm like, Nicole,
why is this
rowing?
on 1?
Yeah, are you rowing with the rower? Because she hates to row. Don't tell anyone.
We won't. This is just between me and you.
That's good. No one will know. But I'm like, are you rowing? And she's like, no, I'm not rowing. We asked the lady that comes and watches the kids when we have a babysitter. She goes, oh, yeah. I didn't know that wasn't a thing. He would go out in the garage and go row like a 500 or 1,000 meters on his own because he was trying to get faster at the gym.
That's amazing.
Yeah. He was
Alan likes to win.
7. Yeah, he does not believe in losing. Whether it's warming up, he can do Frankensteins faster than anybody I know. They're not quality, but he does them faster. And
we had to have some come to Jesus on that too. I'm like, hey man, it's not winning if you don't do all the reps, bro.
No, yeah, we did have some point shaving for a while, but I think he's through that now. He's really about like trying to move right.
No, he's gotten much better.
Yeah.
He's gotten much better. He still just needs an occasional, hey, slow down. but much better. And I mean, he's so nimble that he just moves well. It's like almost hard for Allen to get like in a bad position.
Yeah, the only thing we're working on now is like he's afterwards after the workout he wants to go get that protein shake and eat that protein bar, and like I'm like, hey man, we gotta stretch
that
out.
Anabolic window, bro.
Yeah, gotta hit that. It's 30 minutes, Dad.
Did you guys just kind of fall into this scenario where like fitness is now a part of your life with you and your kids, or was that something that you guys had discussed prior to?
Not at all discussed with about the kids. So it was 100% about. Really, at the beginning, it was 100% about me. I didn't feel good. I didn't like where I was at. I was trying to lose weight because I was up near the cap, which is a tall guy is a problem. In the Navy, that means you're really big.
For height and weight standards?
Height, weight, yeah. Okay. So, and I got a skinny little bird neck, and there's no way I'm passing like rope and choke, the cheesy Navy body fat standard. But so it was 100% about me, and then and Nicole wanted to have some workout stuff, and she just didn't really know where to get started. So again, that was about her, and it was nice to do something together. But the kids just kind of fell into that. Once Alan got into it, it was a done deal that the girls were going to. They were interested. They wanted to do it. They wanted to be like Big Brother and go do it. It just kind of happened to us.
That's cool. I always think about that. I actually think about it the other way. I always fear that the kids won't want to do it because it's all we do.
Now, we did talk about that as being a thing. And there were a few times, I don't know if I even talked to you about it, where Alan decided like, yeah, I don't really want to go to the gym today. And he would stay home when one of us would go. But it just kind of ebb and flow. And he wasn't ever really like super happy when he didn't go work out. I don't know if that was just him like not wanting to do the workout and that was his way of cherry picking or what. We never really figured it out.
I mean, he's a kid. I mean, that's
and he kind of went through it. And I mean, at one point he was coming like 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Between coming with me and coming with Nicole. So I mean that's
but it's most people don't understand this. It's incredibly difficult to overtrain children.
No, I think at that point it was just hey, I'm always going to the gym. I want to do something else for a little while.
No, I agree. Yeah, it's just it's been interesting to over time.
I think just as interesting as watching, in particular with Alan, watching him grow up as far as learning movement patterns and I mean something as simple as following complex directions of doing the WOD. Right, which for a 6 or 7-year-old is relatively complicated if you think about it.
That's not even something I considered. I understand it now because of the therapy that Logan does with speech therapy and occupational therapy, but that's not something I had considered before you just said it, to be honest with you.
When you think about this, right, I don't know what all exactly you're doing with Logan, but when Alan started doing therapy on the autism spectrum, so applied behavioral analysis is the actual thing. I call it autism
ABA.
therapy. Yeah.
Yep.
They were working on two-step directions, right? And when you do a workout, how many steps is that? Even if it's
it could be 6 or 7.
Exactly. And he would use whiteboard. He would come up with his plan with his coach and follow that through. And unbeknownst to us, he was working on that very complex process of remembering and executing.
Do this and then do this and then do this, and only having to tell you one time.
Yep. And I only tell you one time. And in the coaching environment, maybe I remind you, but for the most part, you can't focus just on that. You have to be able to intake that and execute.
Well, it's just something most of us take for granted because we'd never had to navigate that scenario of not being able to connect those dots.
Yep.
But that's super interesting. I literally had not considered that until you just said it.
Yeah. So here's another one that some people don't think about with autism that's 100% applicable in the workout environment is they don't pick up body language very well. And they don't really do sarcasm or figurative language.
Emotion is not something they pick up on.
No, it's not a thing. So now put yourself.
I do remember that, like when Alan first came in here,
we would crack
good
jokes.
Yeah, and he was a statue all the time. just blank face no matter what was going on. You're like, man.
And sometimes
Tough crowd.
he would tell the joke. He just didn't realize it was a joke. Right? Like he didn't realize the comedy of what he just said because it wasn't that he had no filter, but he didn't have the concept of the
humor.
Yeah, he didn't have the humor. He didn't know the situation he was in. He would just say what he thought, and it was hilarious. But to put him in a class with, think Saturday morning 9:30 class. People are coming in after a hard night out on Friday night. People are coming in.
Arguably an inappropriate scenario for a kid in some instances.
Sometimes,
but he grew up pretty quick.
Yeah, he grew up quick. The class grew up to him too. So
That's true.
we got to where some of the strongest personalities, I can think like Brian Eller
Josh
or
Bailey.
whatever. Yeah, they look around. Alan's here. Not only are they changing, necessarily like the way they interact to make it a little more PG.
Yeah.
They're also interested in him. I think I would put both of those guys. I would say Alan would put on his like best friends at the gym list.
Jared, Stefan was up there.
Yep, Stefan was huge up there. Brian Eller, Cheb.
Yep.
All right, Cheb's asking him math questions and stuff while they're doing warm-ups and stuff. I don't know. Trying to turn him into an engineer, which would be okay.
I steered away from those conversations real quick. I heard math. I was like, I'll be over here, guys.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. He just has a blast with so many different people at the gym, and but he has like adult interactions with them. It's not like a small child interaction.
No. Well, sometimes I have to tell Alan. I'm like,
when he gets the sillies, him and Jared.
You got to leave that guy alone, man.
But you know when he gets the sillies with Jared because they're about the same age, actually.
Alan might be more mature than Jared.
Sometimes.
There was a noticeable decrease in Jared's maturity when he came off of coach. So Jared, one of our coaches, most of you guys know him, but was coaching, got into the fire department, and then like he was here for like a week, no coaching.
Yeah.
He's just here.
No.
Worst athlete ever to have in the class is disruption. We talk about this all the time at the level 1 seminars, that if there's a flow master who's not the flow master, they are the worst person on the team. They're just not paying attention to anything. They're joking around. They're wandering around. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why?
Well, it's the coach that comes to class and is on the OFP. I'm not saying that you've ever done that before.
I've not done that. I've showed up late into a class, but I'm never off doing my own thing.
True. You're not totally doing your own thing, but you do the most abbreviated workouts.
Not because I want to.
Not the workout, the warm-up. I know, because you're always doing stuff.
I'm always doing something.
You come in, you're like, all right, I'm going to start the class. And then somebody needs this or somebody needs that.
And I'm just like, I need to be better at that. That's something I definitely need to be better at. For myself, but also as a to set the example. Yeah, but anyway. Cool. I told you weren't going to have any problems burning an hour, bro.
Whole hour was burned.
That was quick.
Very fast.
Are you reading any books or listening to podcasts?
Let's see. Not really any podcasts right now. I've got a book that I'm like partway through. I think you've read it. I know some people in the gym have anyways. It's the Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
We have it. I have not read it.
So
is it good?
Yes, it's very. I think you would find it interesting from the standpoint it's written totally different. It's very. Based on the title, I think you can figure it out. It's pretty crude writing style as far as
beautiful marketing.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant and it's written that way.
In a crude manner.
Yeah, not like it's like good English as far as the writing style, but the examples and everything are just very raw.
That's life, though, man.
True, and they're hilarious.
Oh well, then it's good. Then it's engaging.
So it's good. I'm not as dedicated at my 10 pages a day, for instance, as you are, and I just find myself getting distracted. But not from the book. If I pick it up, I'm in it for a while.
When do you do your 10 pages a day?
My 10 pages a day are not at the right time. They're at the end of the day.
That's why.
So
you're a pretty fast reader, though, right? You have to be a nuke.
It's dangerous. Yeah.
So do it in the morning. It's going to take you less than 10 minutes.
That's probably true.
No, it's a fact.
Yeah, no, on the speed reading thing, Nicole actually, Game of Thrones was big into the Game of Thrones books not when they first came out, but when I got a hold of them, which was like 2012 or whatever. They weren't, and I would she would get upset if she saw me with one of those books because she knew I didn't exist for like 2 days. I would read the whole thing in 2 days.
Dude, you read so fast that you could probably do 20 pages a day as quickly as I do 10, maybe faster, and you could easily read 30 books a year.
I think my big thing is now I've kind of shifted gears. I used to.
You got to do it in the morning.
When you're fresh.
No, it's not so much that you're fresh. There's no distractions in the morning. Like, nobody's up. Nobody's like, hey, I want this. Turn the TV on. I'm hungry. I want Cheerios. Like, what? Like, none of that shit's happening.
So I'll tell you what buys into my morning thing, and Nicole will laugh about this because she hears the snooze go off in the morning, is my morning gets eaten up by the nighttime. So in a perfect world, I go to bed at 9 because I'm old. But the kids don't go to bed until like 9, and then I want to spend time together with Nicole, or we have stuff to do. It ends up being like 10 or 10:30, and so then I'm tired in the morning because again I'm old. And
What time are you getting up?
I'm trying to get up at 5:30, and I'm getting up at 6, and I got to be out the door at like 6:45.
So just split the middle. 5:45. You'll be done reading 10 pages by 6.
I will commit to give that a go. I'll report back.
It's not going to take. And if you can't get 20, just get 10. Start with 10, but I have a real sneaky suspicion that you are going to easily get 20 a day and double what I'm doing, particularly if you're picking the right genre of book that you enjoy.
Yeah.
But that's the key to that whole thing. Like there's a book called The Miracle Morning, which is all about like how you start your day and doing all of those things. But I'm kind of the same way. So I will, when I get up when I'm up and moving by 5:30, I will get more done in that hour and a half between 5:30 and 7. Logan generally is like clockwork, kicking the door open at 7.
Yeah.
I am getting more done in that hour and a half than most people will get done in a week.
Yeah, I would say my most productive time of the week is Saturday morning before I head to the gym. Because it's quiet. That's sleeping day for everybody else.
It's totally worth it, dude.
Yeah.
I'm not getting up. I have a lot of people that I talk to that get up at like 4. I'm not doing that nonsense.
I can't do
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I think you either are that type of person or not. I think it's really hard to train that, like, get up 4 a.m. That's where your clock starts. Like, I just have no interest in that whatsoever. Like 5:15, 5:30 is about as early as you're going to get me. I have a hard time functioning if it's earlier than that.
Yeah, see, I can get up to where I can get that, but then there's like nothing left by like 10 a.m. I'm done for the day.
Yeah, because you're already 6 hours into your day.
Yeah, it's not good.
Okay, cool. Last thing. Yeah, I am going to read that book. It's at the house. Just bought it. You get to ask me any question you want about anything.
Any question I want about anything? I'm not prepared for this. There's so many questions that I can ask.
Well, as soon as people start watching the full podcast, they're going to get hip to this, and they're going to come prepared. Right now, I'm just catching people off guard, which is to my advantage.
That is to your advantage.
But it's not going to last very long. Barnes stumped me last week. I wasn't shocked by that, though. He got me. I had to. There was a long, odd pause because I had to think so deeply about it.
Let's see. I mean, I could come up with any number of questions just to stump you.
It could be about me. It could be selfish. You could ask me. I just realized we're wearing the same sweatpants.
We are. I told you the other day you need to go to Lulu and convince them to make these again.
I just got a gift card from my mom for my birthday.
Ooh,
so I got to go find out what they got over there. Haven't been over there in a minute.
They had some joggers. They don't have your picture on the wall anymore. I'm
not an ambassador anymore.
What a scam.
I was there for 2 years, man. They treated me well.
That's true. It's a good place. Well. It's a good place. Dangerous over there. Very, very, very dangerous place for me to be financially.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. So we're not going to play the stump thing. Let's play the...
I don't think he was trying to. That's just Barnes. That's just his style.
That's how he does, right? He's a deep thinker. All right. So I remember back in the day, really when Alan was starting to go through and we were kind of watching him grow and learn, we talked about some of the vision there is to do some... schools or wherever that combine, not just a school that has a CrossFit athletic program, but a school that's kind of built around combining those. And I knew at the time you were intrigued about that, but I didn't know if that was something that you wanted to pursue or not. So the question is, in the future, indefinite amount of time allowed, is having an in-house school that has the athletic component of CrossFit Kids involved in it still something that you're interested in?
Yes. I don't know exactly what that looks or feels like, but the answer is yes. So we're toying around with doing like a lift and learn with some older kids, just bringing kids in from some of the schools or someone from like the YMCA or something like that, or Boys and Girls Club, and doing that. I would love to do that. Obviously, stuff becomes important to you when it impacts your life. So
Right.
obviously the autism thing is now more on our spectrum than it would be if we did not have our daughter. So some people, that rubs them wrong. I'm like, that's the way everybody operates. Like, nobody cares about anything that it's not affecting their life. So yes, along with a lot of other things. So what I'm not short on is good ideas. What I have to be very careful of is how I rack and stack those ideas, because if you put them in the wrong order, you shoot yourself in the foot. So yes, but probably closer. If we were gonna break this window into 5 and 10 year increments, it's probably on the back half.
That makes sense.
5 to 10 years out.
All right, fair enough. So what's the next thing in the bracket? What's the next thing that nobody knows you're working on? How's that? See, I got 2 questions out of this.
That's okay. Adrian asked like 7. So nobody knows I'm working on.
Yeah, that nobody knows is just rattling in your head, but is actually pretty high up the rack.
Like just an idea, like nothing I'm actually taking action on.
Yeah, as long as nobody really knows about it. Something that would surprise anybody who's made it this far into the podcast.
I think I've discussed most of them. I don't keep a lot of secrets, man. I think Rocky asked me in the very first one that I ever did, and I really want to. I'll give you like get the other gym grinding and moving the way that I want it, so that it replicates the feel and the culture that you get when you get in here. Do that, grow that, have staff that, fits the bill of Cassidy and myself, and that just takes time. So that's 36 months.
Yep.
In that 36 months, it's also helping Phil and these guys grow the weightlifting program, and it's also getting into training sport-specific athletes, kids, whether that's here or whether it's off-site. But that is very likely going to happen very soon. And then from there, potentially another facility. I don't know where. I'm not really there yet. But from there, then it's like, then I'm starting to think a little bit bigger picture, where it's like, okay, now we start having discussions about, is it possible for us to do some sort of integrative health within our facilities, where we're offering alternatives to healthcare, stuff like that, like obnoxious big ideas. Pie in the sky is by that sports facility over there, like right around the corner.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, it's 100 and whatever it is. It's easily 150,000 square feet. Yeah, and then running, sport-specific camps, sport-specific training, CrossFit, personal training, running programs for kids, having leagues, stuff like that. But the idea is to have as large of an impact on health and wellness in our community as humanly possible, with no cap on what that looks like. So, yeah, super grandiose stuff. The idea is trying to reverse that and find out, like, okay, what's that first step look like in order to get there in 10, maybe even 20 years, probably closer in that 15 to 20 years.
All right, last question.
Okay.
Why, when you're a Division I basketball athlete, right? Right. Why do we not have a basketball hoop in our facility anywhere? Not even outside, nothing. I think the only time I've seen you dribble a basketball.
It's so the ceilings are too short in here. The ceilings are like barely 15 feet here. So if you shoot a basketball correctly, you're going to throw it higher than 15 feet.
That's true, but there's not one outside either.
There's outside. The landlord is a little weird about me putting stuff outside. So and oddly, I was over at the field house the other day, and the Virginia Beach field house, and they had a basketball court there. And for the life of me, they have a lot of stuff over there, but I could not find a basketball, and I really wanted to shoot a basketball. I would burn a lot of time just because I don't have a desire to play basketball anymore, but when I get a basketball in my hand, I'm very happy. I'll just diddle with it forever.
I figured you spent so much time doing it.
Yeah,
I think the only time
I still do love the sport.
I think the only time I've really seen you do anything with it was teaching Alan to dribble.
I think it's funny. Nobody in the CrossFit world knows that part of my life. But if you grew up with me up until, until I was 24, I was a basketball player.
That's
all I did. Yeah. And I think a lot of people would be surprised at my skill level in the sport of basketball. I just don't think you play that long, and I can still do a lot of stuff with a basketball.
Some of it's going to be riding a bike.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you shoot
not a thing.
It's definitely not a thing. That's one of the skills that I've lost the most is just jumping and really, really vertical stuff. But yeah, it is like riding a bike. You shoot a million shots, you're not going to lose the ability to shoot. You get a little rusty, but it'll take you 20 minutes to figure it out. So, but yeah, cool. All right, guys. If you guys got questions for Matt, if you got questions for us about like any of the stuff that we were talking about with regarding to training kids, autism, stuff like that, we're not specialists, but we have got some experience with it. Hit us up. If you want to follow us on social media, again, all of these podcasts are housed on YouTube and on our website, CrossFit RIfe on Facebook, CrossFit RIfe on Instagram. Hit us up, CrossFitRife.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your time, bro. See you guys. Later.